15 incredible coincidences that seem impossible but actually happened. The coincidences between Mesut Özil and Enzo Ferrari have puzzled many people due to how strange and striking they are. Although there is no real connection between them, the details that link them have sparked numerous theories and debates on the internet. 1. An astonishing physical resemblance. One of the most shocking coincidences is the incredible physical resemblance between the two. If you compare photos of Enzo Ferrari in his youth and Mesut Özil today, it is impossible not to notice the similarities in their facial features. They share a similar bone structure with prominent cheekbones, a distinctive nose, and large, expressive eyes. This resemblance has led many people to wonder if there is any connection between them, although there is no evidence of a family link. 2. The curious rebirth. Another fascinating fact is that Enzo Ferrari passed away on August 14, 1988, while Mesut Özil was born on October 15, 1988, just 2 months after the Italian entrepreneur's death. This coincidence has fueled conspiracy theories and speculation about the possibility that Özil is some sort of reincarnation of Ferrari. While this is merely an intriguing curiosity without scientific basis, the fact that they look so much alike and that their lives are separated by only a short period has made many people wonder if there is something more behind this coincidence. 3. Success in their respective fields. Enzo Ferrari was a visionary who revolutionized the world of motorsports and created one of the most iconic sports car brands in history. Mesut Özil, on the other hand, became an elite footballer, standing out as one of the best midfielders of his generation. Both achieved great success in their respective fields, leaving their mark in history in their own ways. Even though there is no real connection between them, the combination of their physical resemblance, the fact that Ferrari died shortly before Özil was born, and their successful careers has made this one of the most surprising coincidences in modern history. 2. The Simpsons vs. Trump. In the year 2000, The Simpsons made a surprising prediction that Donald Trump would one day become the President of the United States. This happened in the episode Back to the Future, where Lisa, as the newly elected president, mentions that she inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. At the time, the idea of Trump becoming president seemed more like a joke than a realistic possibility. However, what makes this coincidence even more eerie is that years later, in 2015, The Simpsons aired another episode, Trumptastic Voyage, which showed Trump descending an escalator in a scene almost identical to real-life footage of him announcing his candidacy. Even the way the crowd reacted and a sign falling in the background matched what actually happened in real life. Although The Simpsons has a history of making predictions that later come true, this one stands out as one of the most shocking. What started as satire ended up becoming reality, making people wonder just how much The Simpsons writers can really see into the future. 3. The astonishing coincidences between Lincoln and Kennedy. Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, two of the most iconic presidents in U.S. history, share a series of coincidences so strange that they have fueled countless theories and debates. While some of these parallels may be pure chance, the sheer number of them makes the connection between the two even more intriguing. Here are some of the most striking similarities. Murder under similar circumstances. Both Lincoln and Kennedy were assassinated by a gunshot to the back of the head, on a Friday, and just before a major holiday. Lincoln was killed the Friday before Easter in 1865, while Kennedy was assassinated the Friday before Thanksgiving in 1963. A friend named Billy Graham. Both presidents had a close association with a man named Billy Graham. Lincoln was acquainted with a preacher named William Billy Graham, while Kennedy had a well-known friendship with the famous evangelist Billy Graham. Family similarities. Both Lincoln and Kennedy had 4 children, and both lost a child during their time in the White House. Their successors were named Johnson. After their assassinations, both were succeeded by vice presidents named Johnson. Lincoln's successor was Andrew Johnson, born in 1808, while Kennedy's was Lyndon B. Johnson, born in 1908, exactly 100 years apart. These are just a few of the eerie coincidences that have led many to wonder if there is something more behind these parallels. Whether purely coincidental or not, the similarities between Lincoln and Kennedy remain one of the most fascinating mysteries in American history. 4. Miss Unsinkable. Violet Jessup, famously known as Miss Unsinkable, is a figure whose life story could be seen as either an incredible stroke of luck or a haunting omen. Throughout her career as a stewardess and nurse aboard ocean liners, she found herself in the middle of three of the most infamous maritime disasters in history, yet managed to survive them all. HMS Olympic collision, 1911. Jessup was aboard the HMS Olympic, the largest and most luxurious ocean liner of its time, when it collided with the British warship HMS Hawke. Despite the severe damage to both vessels, the Olympic managed to return to port without sinking, and Jessup emerged unharmed. RMS Titanic disaster, 1912. A year later, she was serving as a stewardess on the RMS Titanic during its maiden voyage when it struck an iceberg and sank in the North Atlantic. Jessup managed to escape in one of the lifeboats and lived to tell the tale of one of history's most infamous tragedies. HMHS Britannic sinking, 1916. During World War I, she worked as a nurse aboard the HMHS Britannic, which had been converted into a hospital ship. The vessel struck a naval mine and began sinking rapidly. Jessup jumped into the water and barely survived after being sucked underwater by the ship's propellers, suffering a severe head injury in the process. Her remarkable ability to survive three major ship disasters earned her the legendary nickname Miss Unsinkable. Whether she was blessed with extraordinary luck or carried an unfortunate curse remains a subject of fascination. 5. The twins separated at birth with almost identical lives. In one of the most remarkable stories of uncanny coincidences, two identical twins from Ohio were separated at birth and later reunited as adults. Despite growing up in completely different environments, their lives followed a strikingly similar trajectory, sparking wonder at the strange forces that seemed to guide them toward identical paths. The same name, after being adopted by different families, both twins were given the same name, James. The fact that two different families, with no knowledge of the other, chose the same name for their adopted sons is just the beginning of their eerie similarities. Careers in law enforcement, both twins grew up to become police officers. They embarked on similar careers in law enforcement, unaware of each other's profession. This was a remarkable coincidence, especially considering they had no knowledge of each other during their early years. Marriage to women named Linda, as if their careers weren't enough of a shared bond, both twins married women named Linda. This parallel in their personal lives is another uncanny detail that seems almost too improbable to be a coincidence. Similar habits and preferences. After meeting for the first time as adults, the twins discovered even more similarities in their habits and preferences. They both enjoyed the same types of foods, liked the same activities, and even shared similar mannerisms, leading many to believe that nature played a larger role in shaping their lives than previously thought. The story of these twins, separated at birth and living such remarkably similar lives, has become a popular example of the mysterious nature of human genetics and the uncanny connections that can exist between people, even when they are miles apart. Children with nearly identical names. Each twin had a son, one named James Allan and the other named James Allan. The slight variation in their children's names, both incredibly similar yet distinct, further added to the astonishing parallels in their lives. The same dog, both twins also had a dog, and not just any dog, but one named Toy. This shared pet name is another strange similarity in their lives, especially considering they had no knowledge of each other or their pets during their early years. Marriage to women named Betty. After both twins went through divorces, their lives took yet another strikingly similar turn. They each remarried women named Betty, showing an almost eerie pattern in their romantic lives. These incredible coincidences between the two men, from their names, to their careers, to their family structures, all highlight the strange and mysterious ways in which life sometimes aligns. Their story is an example of the fascinating and inexplicable nature of human experience, where two individuals, separated by fate, live out lives that are almost identical in every way. 6. Mark Twain predicted his own death. Mark Twain, one of the most famous writers in American history, is known not only for his literary genius but also for his remarkable sense of humor and wit. However, one of the most intriguing aspects of his life involves a chilling prediction he made about his own death, something that many consider to be a strange and almost prophetic coincidence. Twain was born in 1835, the same year that Halley's Comet passed close to Earth. He reportedly said that he came in with the comet and, in a twist of eerie fate, predicted that he would leave with it as well. Twain's prediction was as follows: "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it." This statement, made years before his death, was met with amusement by many, but few could have anticipated how accurate his words would turn out to be. In 1910, Halley's Comet made its return, and just one day after its closest approach to Earth, Mark Twain passed away on April 21, 1910. His death occurred exactly as he had predicted, adding an almost surreal layer to his legacy. Whether Twain truly foresaw his death or simply made an astute observation about the timing of his life and the comet's cycle, his prediction remains one of the most astonishing coincidences in the world of literature and beyond. The notion that he somehow knew the exact moment of his passing, tied so closely to a cosmic event, is a mystery that continues to fascinate and baffle people to this day. Mark Twain, the renowned American writer, was known for his sharp wit and insightful commentary on life. Yet, one of the most chilling aspects of his life was the eerie prediction he made about his own death, a prediction tied to a celestial event that had fascinated people for centuries: Halley's Comet. Twain was born in 1835, the year Halley's Comet made its close pass by Earth. In 1909, Twain famously remarked, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it." At the time, his statement seemed more like a humorous comment rather than a serious prediction. Yet, as fate would have it, Twain's words became eerily prophetic. The comet returned to Earth's vicinity in 1910, and on April 21, 1910, just one day after its closest approach to Earth, Mark Twain passed away. The exact alignment of the comet's reappearance and Twain's death seemed too uncanny to be purely coincidental, and many saw it as the fulfillment of his own prediction. Twain's life, intertwined with the cosmic event, has since become a fascinating tale of a man who seemed to foresee his own departure in an extraordinary way. Whether it was a well-timed coincidence or an incredible insight into the rhythms of the universe, Twain's passing remains one of the most captivating and mysterious connections in history. 7. The Dutch cyclist who escaped two air disasters. Maarten de Jonge, a Dutch cyclist, experienced two life-saving coincidences that have left many in disbelief. His story involves not one, but two near-miss experiences with some of the most tragic air disasters in modern history, events that many believe he narrowly avoided by sheer fate. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, 2014, in an astonishing twist of fate, Maarten de Jonge had originally booked a seat on the ill-fated Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, which tragically disappeared on March 8, 2014, while en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. However, just before the flight, he decided to change his reservation to a flight that was scheduled to depart 1 hour earlier. This seemingly insignificant change ultimately spared his life, as the flight he had originally booked is still one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history, with no confirmed wreckage ever found. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, 2014, less than 4 months later, de Jonge faced another close call. He was also booked on Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, which was tragically shot down over eastern Ukraine on July 17, 2014, while flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. However, Maarten had opted to take a different flight at the last minute, in order to save money. This decision kept him safely out of harm's way when the aircraft was downed by a missile. These two unbelievable coincidences left Maarten de Jonge not only with a second chance at life, but also with a sense of profound gratitude. His story stands as one of the most remarkable examples of fate stepping in to protect someone from two major air disasters that claimed the lives of hundreds of others. Many who hear his story wonder if there was something more at play, whether it was simply incredible luck or something far more mysterious. 8. Did Edgar Allan Poe have a time machine? One of the most curious and chilling coincidences in literary history involves the famous American writer Edgar Allan Poe and his novel The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. The story, published in 1838, centers around 4 sailors whose ship sinks, leaving them stranded in the vast, unforgiving ocean. After days of desperation, they are forced to make a gruesome decision to survive. One of the sailors, a young boy named Richard Parker, is killed and eaten by the others. This gruesome plot twist seems, at first glance, to be a mere piece of macabre fiction in line with Poe's dark, Gothic style. However, the eerie coincidence comes into play when one examines the real-life events that took place decades after the book's publication. In 1884, a real-life shipwreck occurred. The Mignonette, a British yacht, sank off the coast of South Africa. For sailors, stranded at sea, faced a situation almost identical to Poe's fictional account. After days of thirst and hunger, they decided to resort to cannibalism in order to survive. One of the sailors, a young boy named Richard Parker, was killed and eaten by the survivors. The chilling resemblance between Poe's fictional tale and this real-life tragedy is hard to ignore. The fact that the name of the victim in both stories was Richard Parker, and the events unfolded almost exactly as described in Poe's novel, has led to speculation that Poe may have somehow foreseen this bizarre incident, or perhaps even been influenced by a premonition or an eerie, unexplainable connection. The coincidence has fascinated many who believe that Poe's imagination might have been far more than just a product of creative writing, and that perhaps he possessed an uncanny ability to predict future events, a concept that might even spark some to wonder whether he had access to a time machine or some kind of otherworldly foresight. While it's likely just a remarkable coincidence, the parallel between Poe's story and the real-life tragedy continues to stir the imaginations of those who appreciate the strange and mysterious aspects of literature and fate. In his 1838 novel The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, Edgar Allan Poe tells the horrifying tale of 4 sailors stranded at sea after their ship sinks. In a desperate act of survival, they resort to cannibalism, eating the youngest crew member, a boy named Richard Parker. The gruesome and unsettling story is a hallmark of Poe's ability to weave macabre tales, but it becomes even more eerie when you consider the incredible real-life coincidence that followed. 46 years later, in 1884, a ship called the Mignonette sank off the coast of South Africa. 4 sailors were stranded at sea, and with no food or water, they were forced to make a life-or-death decision. In a scenario remarkably similar to Poe's fictional account, the survivors turned to cannibalism to stay alive. Tragically, the one who lost his life and became the victim of this horrifying act was Richard Parker. The striking resemblance between Poe's story and this real-life incident is nothing short of astonishing. Poe had written about a sailor named Richard Parker being eaten in 1838, and nearly half a century later, a real-life Richard Parker met the same grim fate. The coincidence of the exact name, the same situation, and the similar circumstances surrounding both events has fascinated many people, especially those with a penchant for the mysterious and the inexplicable. While Poe claimed the story was purely fictional, the eerie connection between his narrative and the tragic events that unfolded in reality has led some to wonder if Poe had some kind of strange foresight, a sort of unexplainable connection to the future, or even an uncanny ability to predict such events. Was it a bizarre coincidence, or was there something more mysterious at play? It's a question that continues to intrigue and baffle anyone who delves into this strange and haunting tale. 9. A baby saved twice by the same man. In the 1930s, in Detroit, an extraordinary and almost surreal incident occurred that would lead to an incredible coincidence. Joseph Figlock, a regular man just walking down the street, became an unwitting hero in a bizarre turn of events. One day, while strolling along the sidewalk, a baby suddenly fell from an upper-story window, plummeting toward the ground below. In an incredible stroke of luck, the baby fell directly onto Joseph Figlock, cushioning the fall and saving the infant from what would have surely been a fatal drop. Both Figlock and the baby were unharmed, and the incident made headlines as an unbelievable act of fortune. But the story doesn't end there. 3 years later, in the same city, an astonishing second chapter to this strange tale unfolded. As if written by fate itself, the very same baby, now a toddler, fell out of a window once again, this time from a different building. And once again, Joseph Figlock happened to be walking underneath the window at the exact moment the child fell. Incredibly, he managed to catch the child once more, preventing another potentially deadly accident. What makes this series of events even more baffling is that Joseph Figlock had no connection to the family or the child. He was simply in the right place at the right time, twice. His name is forever linked to this bizarre coincidence, and many people have been left to wonder, was it sheer luck, an odd twist of fate, or something more inexplicable that led Joseph Figlock to save the same child not once, but twice? Either way, this remarkable and unlikely sequence of events remains one of the most extraordinary coincidences in modern history. 11. Two brothers struck by the same taxi, 1 year apart. In 1975, a tragic and bizarre coincidence took place in Bermuda that left the island and its residents stunned. A man was riding his moped when, out of nowhere, a taxi struck him, killing him instantly. This tragic accident, though heartbreaking, was seen as just another unfortunate mishap until a chilling twist of fate unfolded 1 year later. Exactly 1 year later, the deceased man's brother, also riding the same moped, met the same fate. He was struck by the same taxi, driven by the same driver, with the same passenger in the back seat. The exact same series of events played out again, resulting in the second brother's death under nearly identical circumstances. What makes this story even more extraordinary is the strange consistency of the accident. It wasn't just that both brothers died in similar accidents, it was the precise recurrence of the same vehicle, the same route, and even the same individuals involved. It seemed as if fate itself had orchestrated this eerie repetition, turning an ordinary accident into a chilling and inexplicable coincidence. The double tragedy shook the community, raising questions about the possibility of destiny, coincidence, or something even more uncanny at work. Was it truly just an extraordinary string of events? Or did the universe have some hand in the tragic fate that befell these two brothers, both taken in the same manner at the hands of the same taxi driver? 12. The Tomb of Tamerlane. In 1941, a group of Soviet experts made a chilling and fateful decision to open the tomb of one of history's most infamous conquerors, Tamerlane, also known as Timur the Lame. Tamerlane, a 14th-century Turkic-Mongol ruler, was known for his ruthless campaigns across Central Asia and the Middle East, where he established an empire founded on terror and bloodshed. When the tomb was opened in the ancient city of Samarkand, the Soviet team discovered an eerie inscription inside, one that appeared to serve as a warning. "When the dead rise again, the world will tremble. Whoever opens my tomb will unleash a conqueror more fearsome than I." The message was ominous, filled with a sense of foreboding that seemed to predict some great disaster. The experts were taken aback, unsure of how to interpret the chilling words. But what happened next would leave them and the world in shock. 2 days later, in a move that would change the course of history, Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union. It was the beginning of one of the bloodiest and most brutal campaigns of World War II, and it caused immense devastation across Eastern Europe. The timing of this invasion, coming just after the tomb of Tamerlane had been disturbed, struck many as more than a mere coincidence. Some viewed the timing and the warning in the tomb as an eerie, almost supernatural prophecy fulfilled, while others considered it an astonishing twist of fate. Regardless of the interpretation, the opening of Tamerlane's tomb and the subsequent events left a lasting imprint on history. The eerie inscription, coupled with the swift outbreak of World War II, led many to wonder, was this a true curse, or was it just a striking and tragic series of coincidences that changed the world forever? 13. The man who predicted the Titanic's sinking. In 1898, a full 14 years before the Titanic disaster, the American writer Morgan Robertson published a novel titled Futility, later known as The Wreck of the Titan. In this fictional story, Robertson described the sinking of a massive ship named Titan, a vessel that bore eerie and striking similarities to the ill-fated RMS Titanic, which would meet its tragic end in 1912. The parallels between the fictional Titan and the real Titanic are almost uncanny. Both ships were considered unsinkable, with designers and passengers alike believing that nothing could bring them down. The Titanic was famously touted as the largest and most luxurious ship of its time, built with the latest technologies, and the Titan in Robertson's novel shared the same hubris. Both ships were equipped with insufficient lifeboats for the number of passengers aboard. In the case of the Titanic, there were only enough lifeboats for about half of the people on board, a fact that would prove disastrous once the ship struck the iceberg. Both vessels met their end in the North Atlantic, after colliding with icebergs. The Titanic's tragic collision with an iceberg led to its sinking on its maiden voyage, resulting in the deaths of over 1,500 people. In Robertson's novel, the Titan too struck an iceberg in the same region, resulting in a devastating disaster. But perhaps the most unsettling part of the story is the way in which these similarities aligned so perfectly, long before the Titanic's doomed voyage. Robertson, a man with no way of knowing what would happen to the Titanic, seemed to have almost predicted the event down to the smallest detail. Though Robertson's novel was not widely recognized at the time, it has since gained fame as an eerie and unsettling prophetic piece of literature. Some have speculated whether Robertson had some kind of supernatural foresight or if his writing was simply based on his understanding of the risks of modern shipbuilding during that era. Others argue that it was simply a product of coincidence and the writer's imagination. Regardless of the explanation, the Titan's resemblance to the Titanic is one of the most bizarre and chilling coincidences in history. It serves as a reminder of how fiction and reality can sometimes blur in ways that are both profound and unsettling. 14. The license plate of Archduke Franz Ferdinand's car. The spark that ignited World War I came on the fateful day of June 28, 1914, when Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife, Sophie, were assassinated in Sarajevo. This tragic event set off a chain of political tensions and alliances that would eventually lead to the outbreak of the war. But there's an unsettling coincidence surrounding the license plate of the car in which the Archduke was traveling on that fateful day. The car that Franz Ferdinand was riding in had a license plate that read A3118. At first glance, it might seem like just another mundane detail. However, as history unfolded, this seemingly insignificant number gained a chilling significance. The number 118 on the license plate of the Archduke's car becomes eerily relevant when we look at the date the war ended. World War I officially ended on November 11, 1918, also known as Armistice Day, when the ceasefire was signed to end the fighting. The date itself, the 11th of November, 18, aligns remarkably with the license plate number in a way that many historians and conspiracy theorists have found too coincidental to ignore. 15. The double tragedy of the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam, one of the most iconic engineering feats of the 20th century, stands as a testament to human ingenuity and determination. But behind its construction lies a tragic story marked by an eerie coincidence that ties together two deaths, separated by 13 years. During the building of the Hoover Dam, which took place between 1931 and 1936, a total of 112 workers tragically lost their lives. The construction was incredibly dangerous, with many falling victim to accidents, drowning, and the unforgiving working conditions. However, among all the fatalities, there's one coincidence that stands out as particularly haunting. The first person to lose their life during the construction of the dam was George Tierney, a surveyor who drowned in the Colorado River on December 20, 1922. Tierney was part of the team tasked with finding the ideal location for the dam, and tragically, his life was claimed by the very river that would later become the site of the massive construction project. Now, here comes the unsettling part. 13 years later, on December 20, 1935, the last person to die during the Hoover Dam's construction was Patrick Tierney, the son of George Tierney. Just like his father, Patrick also died under strikingly similar circumstances on the same date, December 20. Although the exact cause of his death was different, he was a construction worker who fell from a great height. The fact that both father and son tragically passed away on the same day, 13 years apart, is deeply unsettling. This eerie double tragedy has become part of the dark history surrounding the Hoover Dam. The coincidence of both George and Patrick Tierney dying on the same day is one of those strange, almost supernatural events that raise questions about fate, destiny, and the cost of human ambition. Could it be that the Tierney family was cursed by the very project they helped to shape? Or is this simply a haunting coincidence that makes the Hoover Dam's construction even more tragic and poignant? Whatever the explanation, the story of the Tierney family serves as a grim reminder of the dangers faced by those who worked on the Hoover Dam, and the deeply tragic irony that father and son lost their lives on the same day, separated only by the span of a generation.